Alright, I just want to do a quick video on this coal train I'm doing. It will be a total of 60 cars. They're just little kits. And I change out the wheels on these Soundcars for the tangent electrical pickups. The regular cars are done and down there. All the decals, all the numbers are different. There's not a repeat number out of any of these. So you got the ones on the sides and the little ones on the end. But I've got 9, so every 6th car will be a sound car. And when I add that up, it means I needed 9 sound cars. So here they all are. And then the 10th one is the caboose. You can see it's got the working Fred. Right now I got both ends turned on. Normally it would just be the back here. Okay. And I've got the braking rate set at 127, and the braking rate on these 4 B&Os is also set at 127. So we'll go ahead and turn up the throttle. I've got just a made up number here, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you have to go ahead and use your magnet to go along the side and start the consist procedure. And then after that, you have a minute to do it. And with 10 cars, it's a little tricky. So then you hit F8 4 times, and then they're consisted to the number that you have up here. I don't have an engine 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just fictitious for this example. I'm going to go ahead and give it some volume or some speed. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit the brake. And it's looking at that brake rate of 127. That's how long it takes for the squealing of the brake shoes against the wheels. Now, if the locomotives were pulling this when it's all finished, and I hope to have a video of that before long, and they have the braking rate of 127 as well, which is kind of in the middle because you can go all the way up to 255. And I mean, that'd be a pretty long train. I mean, this one is, but I figured 127 was fine. So when the engines are switched over from your regular locomotive brake or independent brake over to train brake, by hitting F12, it switches it over to a train brake. And you'll hear the engines rev up. I think it's just 1 notch as it's the compressors are charging the line. And then after I think it's about 20 or 30 seconds, you'll hear the engines go back to normal. And they would be hooked up to this. So instead of just, hearing them make their sound like I just demonstrated, you'd hear the engines and the cars going down the track. And like I said, with about 6 cars in between, I think that's going to be about perfect. In my opinion, like every car is a bit too much. But my CSX had one every 8 or 9. I think I had 8 cars between each sound car. I was stretching it, it's just my opinion, it was stretching it a bit too much. So that's why now every 6th one has sound. So the only difference is here, when the locomotives are switch over to the train brake using the F12, when you apply the brakes, you'll hear an air dump from the locomotives. You will not hear the squeal of the brakes from the locomotive. That will come from the cars themselves. And then when it slowly comes to a stop, you can bring your throttle all the way down to 0. It's not going to stop any sooner. It's going to look at that brake rate of 127, and the train and the cars will come to a stop at and the sound of the brake squeal will stop at the same time. I think that's very cool. So I'm looking forward to making a video on this, and then I may circle back and do the wheels a rust color, because right now they're pretty bright silver, and I don't want to leave them that way. So I went ahead and disconnected this from the consist. You just wave the magnet over again, and you'll hear the brake wheel turn and lock down. And that's after that, you would typically pull away because the mechanical train brake set. And what I do is on mine, I just put a X-Acto in on an edge, because the top is like a foam, a cosplay type foam. It's 10 millimeter. That's what I got. And then on the bottom, I've got a lot of styrene. It's just like 40 thousandths. I ran it through a saw to get the precision I needed, because there are little nubs at the top on this car, and not every car is going to have that. But inside here, at some point they changed the shrink wrap on these, because all the ones I've been getting more lately are purple, but this one's still white. But this is the decoder, and it's always, so when I look at the car, I see the brake wheel on the end, and I know to put my magnet in this area, because that's where the reed switch is right in this area on the decoder. And then I always put the current keeper on there. I do not want the sound cutting out. And then I use the full baffle, and that comes up just about, you could just see the tops of those little nubs I was talking about if you're really looking. And so the bottom of that plastic seats down on it just perfect. The hole coming up and through it's one size larger than an 1/8. And then I put a little chamfer on there so there's no sharp edges. And there's your tangent electrical pickups. I forgot the size of those holes. There's 2 there, and then 2 there, and that's plenty. And nobody's going to see it when it's on the track. So I just wire up both the trucks are electrical pickup. And so with that and the current keeper, you really have to be going over some terrible track for that to cut out on you. And so I can just push this down in the corner, and it fits nice and snug. It's not enough where it's going to deform or push out on the model. I've got it within thousandths of an inch when I ran that plastic through. And then all I did is take a Dremel, and no 2 carloads are the same. They are all different. And that was kind of the fun part. It's just kind of a, you kind of picture in your mind, okay, how do I want this one to look? And just take a Dremel. I used a little sanding drum wheel, and sand it down, get the shape I want. Paint some elements on there, sprinkle on some of this. I'll put away the bag, but here's what's left out of 60 cars, and this is, I think, the small size, and I still have that much left. You sprinkle that on there. Then when that dries, I come back and hit it with the 8-part water, 1 part glue, and a drop or 2 of like Dawn in a spray bottle. Get that nice and mixed up and just spray it on there until it's good and soaked. And then when it totally dries, I go back over it with a gloss clear coat to get a bit of a sheen on it. Not too much. I mean, the way it looks normally is good, but when you spray the Elmer's on there, it helps lock down everything, most everything. Because at some point, you're going to have to either vacuum or hit these with air. So you want it to stay. But the Elmer's makes it kind of dull. Because out of the bag, it looks good. It looks, like coal. But like I said, the Elmer's dulls it a bit. So that's why I hit it with the gloss clear coat. And it's like 2 coats, and they're not very heavy. So if you were going to go heavier, I would recommend maybe the satin. Because if you go too heavy on a gloss, it's really going to shine. It's going to really shine. And I'm not quite sure that would be the look you're going for. Anyway, I think it turned out good. I'm looking forward to, like I said, running this at a large layout like I did the CSX and then see how that looks. I am much more into the older engines, being around them in the late 70s, early 80s with the B&O, C&O, and chassis. That's my favorite. And to be able to get this many cars as a custom run, and then to go back through, and there's not many 529s. So the few that I left that way, actually this one is one that doesn't have a decal on it. There's only 2 numbered cars that are 529, and this one is 377. I think the other one is 806. And then on all the others, I just changed the last 3 digits. They're 509s. But most of the 509s, well, not most, all are the Soundcars. And it'll help me identify them a little bit better. But when putting them on the track, that's how you'd want to do it. Put those on first, and then go ahead and put in the address of your locomotive, and go ahead and use your magnet. Normally you'd put it on the top of a boxcar or whatever, and that's so you can get your magnet over the top of it. But since this is thick, I want it on the side, and here's my brake wheel, so I'll always know where it's at. And then on the caboose, I just did it on the long section here. Right up here in that area is where it is on the top. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Hope to do the full video with all the cars and trains soon.